Take the example of black economic empowerment, a policy intended to support historically disadvantaged black citizens by providing increased access to the economy, but one that has repeatedly been undermined by corruption and nepotism from the ANC elites who have manipulated the scheme for personal gain at the expense of the broader black populace. The ANC...
But our understanding continues to be that South Africa has got enough domestic capabilities to deal with all these issues of corruption in our country. We have our own internal capability with institutions well established, and also...
Jackson says South Africa has brazenly abandoned its relationship with the United States to align with the aforementioned countries and, quote, terrorist organizations, calling it a betrayal that demands serious consequences. He says that the legislation would ensure that the United States conducted a comprehensive review of a supposed ally, while also holding accountable any corrupt officials, adding that the era of governments undermining American interests without repercussions was now over. The proposed bill...
populace. The ANC elite are focused on increasing dependence on the state in order to exert control. Recently, it was publicly stated that there are now 18 million South Africans receiving state grants compared to just 2.5 million in 1999. Much of this going to provide basic needs at the failure of states to generate meaningful and sustained employment that can only come with a healthy, growing private sector. Another disaster...
as you are aware, there was an NEC. We discussed at length geopolitics, and as you are aware, we are not yet in the know as to clearly who are these officials, what will be the target. But our understanding continues to be that South Africa has got enough domestic capabilities to deal with all these issues of corruption in our country. We have our own internal capability with institutions well established, and also an independent judiciary. So those issues should be dealt with in that context by a sovereign country.
Today is motivated by perpetuating a system of elite capture built on corruption and increasing government dependence through its national democratic revolution. And while clearly deepening relations with the Chinese Communist Party and Putin's Russia. As a black man, I carry the knowledge of my own country's historical burden of inequality. And as a conservative black man, I understand that hard work, perseverance, and getting a shot pays off. That is clearly not the case in South Africa's ruling party, where nearly 30 years into ANC rule, the South African people are more dependent than ever on a state that fails to consistently provide even the most basic services and provides bad policy. Take the example of black...
committees, a classified report that includes a list of senior government officials and ANC leaders that the president determines to have engaged in corruption or human rights abuses that would be sufficient, based on credible evidence, to meet the criteria for the imposition of sanctions pursuant to the Global Magnitsky Human Rights Accountability Act. The act authorizes the U.S. government to sanction foreign government officials worldwide who are deemed to be human rights offenders, including assets freezers or banning them from entering the United States. The bill lists...
sector. Another disastrous policy is the ANC's land reform effort to enforce expropriation without compensation and destroy South Africa's constitutionally protected private property rights. The ANC claims that land reform and EWC are widely popular, but their own surveys show that only 2% of black South Africans identify land reform as a serious unresolved problem, while 80% prioritize economic growth and more jobs over land expropriation. Despite this, the ANC is currently pushing the expropriation bill and land court bill through Parliament to reward themselves for a job poorly done.
The bill also cites recent comments by expelled Ambassador Ibrahim Rasool and high-level ANC and government contacts with China and Russia. Similar legislation passed by the House of Representatives last year was not taken up by the Democratic-led Senate. Both houses of Congress are now, of course, controlled by Republicans, which means passage in both houses seems increasingly likely. Passage of this bill could further complicate efforts to rebuild the bilateral relationship between Washington and Pretoria.
Poorly done. There is no country in the world that has remained democratic after removing its population's private property rights, and I remain concerned about the ANC's democratic drift away from constitutional rule. Especially
this one, for me,